I never thought betrayal could come from inside my own home. The night my son whispered the truth, my heart stopped beating the same. I'm Emily Carter, a school nurse in Ohio. I used to believe my family was unbreakable until I learned that love can rot from the inside out. The whisper in the dark, it started with a sound, soft crying that bled through the hallway walls. At first, I thought maybe it was just a bad dream. My son Liam had those sometimes, monsters, thunder, school bullies. But that night, something about his voice wasn't about fear. It was pain. I pushed his door open gently. The nightlight cast a dull orange glow on his little face, twisted with tears. "Hey, sweetie," I whispered, kneeling beside his bed. "What's wrong?" He shook his head so fast his hair stuck to his wet cheeks. "I can't say it," he said, voice breaking. "Daddy said not to." A chill crawled up my arms. "You can tell me anything. You know that, right?" He pulled his blanket tighter around him. "Daddy hurt someone." My breath stopped. "What do you mean, honey?" He looked so small, too small to carry such heavy words. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "He hurt Aunt Sarah. He said if I told, I'd be in trouble too." The room collapsed around me. The walls closed in. My sister, Sarah, the woman who'd spent every Thanksgiving helping me set the table, who tucked Liam into bed when I worked the late shift. Hurt? By him? I wanted to scream, to demand an explanation from a 7-year-old who didn't understand the power of what he'd said. Instead, I just sat there, holding his trembling hand and whispered, "It's okay, baby. You're safe." But I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the hallway, staring at the closed bedroom door across from mine, where my husband Mark slept soundly. I listened to his slow, easy breathing through the silence and wondered who the man in that room really was. The hollow morning sunlight felt sick that morning. It poured through the kitchen window like a lie trying too hard. I stood at the counter, spreading peanut butter across toast, pretending everything was normal. Mark came in wearing that same crisp smile he always wore to work. "Morning, Em," he said cheerfully, grabbing his coffee mug. I couldn't look at him. The sound of his spoon clinking against porcelain scraped at my chest. "Hey, champ," he said to Liam at the table. "Ready for school?" Liam stared at his cereal. "Yeah," he muttered softly, eyes down. Mark didn't notice. Or maybe he did, and didn't care. Every move I made felt forced. The toast, the school lunch, the small talk. It all felt like I was acting in a play I didn't remember auditioning for. When Mark leaned in to kiss my cheek, I flinched without meaning to. He froze. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile too bright to be real. "Just tired." He studied me for a second, then nodded and left. The sound of the front door closing echoed like a gunshot. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the untouched breakfast plates, trying to make sense of what Liam had said. Maybe he misunderstood. Maybe Sarah and Mark argued about something harmless. Maybe I could call her and laugh about it. Yes, laugh about it. But deep down, I knew better. There had always been small moments, quick glances across the room, awkward silences when I entered, excuses that never added up. And now, all those dots connected into something I didn't want to see. The house felt empty once they were gone, but my head rang with questions. I wanted to pick up the phone and call Sarah right then, but I was afraid of what she might say, and more afraid of what she might not, hidden files. That night, curiosity burned holes through my chest. When Mark went to shower, I sat at his desk pretending to look for stamps, but my shaking fingers found the laptop instead. His password had always been our wedding date. My heart pounded as I typed it in. The screen opened with no hesitation. For a moment, I almost felt insulted by how easy it was. I clicked through folders, bank statements, reports, pictures. Then there was one tucked away deep. Private, personal. Inside were names, women's names, dozens of them. I scrolled faster. Erin, Claire, Lauren. My stomach twisted with every click. Then one name stopped me cold. Sarah. The walls blurred around me. I opened one file. A message chain unfurled, filled with words I couldn't pretend not to understand. Flirtations, plans, promises, pictures too. My sister's face smiled from the screen in ways that shattered every memory I had of her. Water ran from the bathroom. Mark was still singing to himself, like nothing was wrong. I sat there unable to breathe, staring at the proof that my marriage was a mask, and that my sister had worn hers too. A sound escaped my mouth. Half cry, half laugh. I slammed the laptop shut and shoved it back. My mind screamed. When he came out in a towel, hair wet and grin easy, I said nothing. I just smiled and handed him his coffee cup as if nothing had changed, but everything had. Every heartbeat felt different now. It no longer matched his. My sister's silence. The next morning, I called Sarah. My hand trembled as the phone rang. "Hey," she answered softly, voice wary. "Can we talk?" I said, trying to keep steady. She paused. "About what?" "You know what?" I said before I could stop myself. The silence on the other end sliced through me. "Sarah, I saw the messages." She let out a tiny sound, a gasp or maybe a sob. "Emily, please, you don't understand." "I understand enough," I whispered. "My husband, you, how long?" There was a long pause before she said, "Years." Her voice broke. "Since before Liam was born." I sank to the floor, the phone slipping slightly from my hand. "How could you?" "I didn't know how to stop," she cried. "He told me you'd leave me, that the family would turn against me if I said anything. He said he loved me." Tears blurred my sight. "Love?" I spat the word out. "You call that love?" She broke into sobs. "I'm so sorry." My vision pulsed red. I couldn't breathe. I ended the call before I said something unforgivable, before my heart cracked open completely. The walls of the living room closed in. Every photo frame looked like a mockery. Smiling Christmas mornings, happy picnics, fake laughter. I sank to the carpet, pressing my forehead against my knees, and let myself break, for the first time, the family lie. The truth spread through me like a wound that wouldn't clot. Sarah came over that evening, face pale and swollen from crying. "I have to tell you everything," she whispered. Her words spilled out in broken sentences. How it started with flirting, how Mark convinced her it was their secret. How he used my job and long hours as his excuse. Then she said something that stopped my breath entirely. "Mom and Dad knew?" For a moment, I couldn't understand her. "What do you mean they knew?" "They found out 2 years ago," she said. "But Dad told me to keep quiet, to protect the family name." My body went numb. My parents, my own parents, chose silence over truth. The betrayal stretched further than I ever imagined. Every Sunday dinner, every fake smile, every hug. It had all been built on a lie everyone agreed to protect but me. When Sarah left, I sat alone at the table. My anger burned so deep it felt calm, cold, collected. I poured a glass of wine and looked into the dark window, seeing my reflection. Tired, broken, but awake at last. Right then, I swore I would make them all see what they'd done. I would not be the quiet one. Not like Sarah, not like my mother. That night, Emily Carter started planning her revenge, seeds of revenge. Days turned into weeks, and the anger became something else. Focus. I stopped crying. I stopped asking why. Now I wanted how. How to make him pay, how to make them all feel what I felt. At school, I smiled. I bandaged scraped knees, measured fevers, charted growths. I was still the calm, gentle nurse everyone loved. No one could see the storm building behind that smile. At night, when Mark read the paper or watched TV, I took notes. I wrote dates, names, places. I checked every password he had, every backup drive, every email. He wasn't clever. He was careful. But so was I. Liam sometimes caught me staring at his father. "Mom," he whispered once, "you look scared." "I'm not scared," I told him softly. "Not anymore." One night, I found a credit card bill with strange withdrawals, a hotel just 2 towns away. The next morning, he said he had an early meeting in Cincinnati. I smiled and packed his lunch, slipping my phone into the pocket of his coat. I turned on location sharing before handing it to him. That afternoon, I drove to the hotel. Room 214. I knocked softly, then harder. No answer. But through the slightly open curtain, I saw him, shirt off, laughing, and not with Sarah this time. A woman younger, all hair and lipstick. Just another name for the folder, another reason for the plan. I didn't cry. I took a photo instead. Every click of the shutter sounded like a heartbeat. Revenge was no longer an idea. It was alive in me, the trap. I waited 2 more weeks before making my move. Mark started noticing. "You're so quiet lately," he said one night. "Something wrong?" "Just tired," I told him, just like before. It had become our language, lies stacked neatly into routine. When he left for work the next day, I planted a hidden camera in his office. It looks like a smoke detector, one of those nanny cams you can buy online. I tested the feed on my phone, every angle, perfect. That evening, I watched. My screen flickered with that dim office lighting as he walked in, loosened his tie, sat behind his desk. Then there was a knock. A woman entered. My stomach dropped. It wasn't a woman, it was my mother. At first, I thought maybe she was confronting him. Maybe this was her redemption. But then she sat too close. She reached out, put a hand over his. They spoke softly, faces full of guilt and something worse, understanding. "Emily's asking questions," Mark said quietly. "You need to calm her down." My mother sighed. "I'll handle it," she said, as though my pain was something to manage. I turned off the video feed and sat there in the dark, my face cold and wet. They were all in it together, my husband, my sister, my parents, family. The word no longer meant what I thought it did. That night, I wrote out what I'd do next, step by step. The plan didn't shake this time. My hands were steady as stone. The breaking point. The next day, I went to my mother's house. She was pruning her roses in the yard, pretending life still smelled sweet. "We need to talk," I said. She stiffened. "Emily." "No," I interrupted. "You lied. You all lied." Her clippers froze midair. "You don't understand. We were protecting you." "Protecting me?" My voice quivered with anger. "From what? Truth? From the man in my bed who seduced your youngest daughter?" Her mouth trembled. "He said it was a mistake. He promised he'd stop." "And you believed him." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "We were trying to keep the family safe." Safe. That word again. Safe for whom? The liar or the silenced? I leaned in close, my voice trembling but hard. "You've kept his secrets, Mom, but I won't anymore." She reached for me. "Emily, please, don't do anything rash." I pulled away. The only rash thing I ever did was trust this family. I walked back to my car, shaking. For a moment, I thought I might turn around. But then I looked in the mirror and saw what I'd become, not weak, not broken, awake. That night, I opened the laptop again. All the footage, the files, the messages, I gathered them into a single folder named Truth. For years, they built lies. Now I would burn them with it. The final recording, the sun hadn't yet risen when I finished preparing everything. I sat in the living room, the glow of the screen lighting my face. Every sound file, every email, every image of him and Sarah, him and Mom. It was all there, and every name. I left a copy on a drive marked for the police and another for my parents. I sent the video feed from his office straight to Internal Affairs. He'd used company funds for his meetings. There was no coming back from this. At 8 a.m., I made coffee, just like every morning. When Mark came down, I smiled. "Big day today," I said. He looked at me oddly. "You okay?" "Better than ever," I said. He kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch this time. By noon, 2 police cars pulled up. Liam was at school. Everything happened quietly. He tried to act confused. But when the officer mentioned recordings, his face turned pale. I watched him being led away, his wrists in cuffs, muttering something I couldn't hear. The house went silent after that. For a long time, I just stood there, breathing. Then I pressed play on the news later that night. His photo flashed on the screen, and for the first time in months, I felt clean. Empty, but clean. What remains? It's strange how a house can still feel haunted even when the ghosts are alive. The air sits heavy, as if it remembers too much. Liam sleeps better now, I can tell, because he dreams without trembling. Sometimes he still asks, "Is Daddy coming home?" And I tell him softly, "Not for a while, baby, not for a while." Sarah is in therapy. I visit her sometimes, not out of forgiveness, not yet, but because I understand what being trapped under fear feels like. She's starting to smile again, faintly. My mother hasn't called. My father sent one letter, a weak apology that ended with the words, "Family is complicated." I didn't reply. Family isn't complicated. It's a choice. They made theirs. Now I make mine. I've started new routines, morning runs, quiet dinners with Liam, slow weekends. I talk to him about truth, about courage, in words simple enough for him to carry. Maybe someday he'll understand what his whisper saved us from. Sometimes I stand in the doorway of my bedroom, see the moonlight spill across the bed, and remember what I lost. Then I remind myself, I didn't lose. I reclaimed. The world outside feels wide again. The truth can destroy, yes, but it also cleanses. And as I tuck my son into bed, he grabs my hand sleepily. You're not sad anymore, he murmurs. I kiss his forehead and whisper back, No, sweetheart. I'm finally free.